Orgrimmar revamp. Mop remix players furious. WoW players are always furious. And big quality of life features. Let's see what Bellular has to say. I have not heard anything about an Orgrimmar revamp, so I'm interested in that. Let's see what's going on here.
Welcome back. Man, this has been a wild week. We've got War Within beta, massive remix changes, a lot of very frustrated remix players, and an Orgrimmar revamp tease. And other things, like a new human racial. It's all quite a lot, just a taste of what's in today's news. So with that said, let's roll. War Within beta is going live June 5th, and Blizzard revealed this in a post that contains this absolutely gorgeous key art that for some reason reminds me of like a cropped composition of the Captain EO poster. Well, I mean, without the funny little dude to the right. But anyway, they also said that pre-ordering the digital Epic Edition gives you instant beta access, which...
I did it.
Well, the instant bit is new, right? Getting beta access was always part of the deal. It being instant is different. And I do get them doing this from the business side, but I will at least say this. Seriously, do not buy the edition for this, right? Don't buy it for beta access. Like, unless you actually really, really want to test and that's what you enjoy, then sure. By all means. But otherwise,
I think people are considering beta to be early access. It really isn't. It's beta. There's going to be broken bits to it. It's not fully fleshed out yet. It's not fully polished. I think some people are forgetting that and thinking, I'm going to get into beta right now and be playing the expansion. No, you're not. You're playing a very early testing version of the expansion. So yeah, I agree with Bellular. Do not buy the beta. Do not buy the freaking $90 version of the expansion just because you want to play beta.
Touch it, an expansion.
Now you will get early access.
Just going in, launch day,
3 days.
playing it normal. Now, there have still been a few quibbles with this because, of course, of the physical edition, and it's the usual thing that Blizzard has got with their physical collector's edition every goddamn time where, yeah, I mean, you obviously, if you've got the physical Epic edition, then you don't get this. Now, it wasn't actually mentioned as a thing that you would get with the physical edition, so they're technically in the clear, but, yeah, kind of unfortunate. And Blizzard, seriously, why the hell, well, especially when it's done via the Blizzard Gear Store, do you not just, like, email people the code or have some way to upgrade their accounts?
He's right.
Like, man, I don't know. Doesn't make any sense to me. With that said, though, let's have a chat about the War Within and the new things in the build. So, this week we've got a new alpha build, and there has been a lot of stuff. We have many different class changes, we have UI features that are real nice, and some other things. I'll kick it off with Delves. So Delves have got a nice new UI for when you enter them, and this area in Dornegal has got a book thing that will tell you when the season starts. That's, of course, a relevant thing because tiers 4 and beyond are going to be seasonal, because, of course, they actually have got good loot. Also, last week's build had this quest from Faerun.
So you can always do Delves at the lower levels, but at level 4 and 5, which is what he called tiers, they're going to be seasonal. Okay. I guess they're dropping very seasonal relevant gear then. That's pretty cool.
Where basically you get to choose what you want to do, and if you do whatever that objective is, you'll get a Delve treasure key. Now, those are the keys that you need to actually unlock the resplendent chests that are at the end of the Delves. Essentially, you can do Delves for regular repeated rewards as much as you want, to your heart's content, but for the more powerful sort of weekly lockout style stuff, that is going to be behind these resplendent chests.
I'm not going to lie, though. You know, whenever Blizzard's done this thing where you got to get a key to do something, we've seen this stuff in, Torghast, we've seen this shit in other things where you got to get the key to do the thing. It just makes, not Torghast, what was it? Nazath, the nightmares, the freaking visions of Nazath. Remember, you had to get basically a key to do those? It just makes it that much more disappointing when you don't get the loot you wanted. I'm not going to lie. I've always had that feeling where if I'm working hard to get into the thing to begin with, and then I finish the thing and don't get anything out of it, it just hurts that. It's like it's a dick punch, honestly. It just feels that much more worse.
So, yeah, I suppose what I'm doing here is pretty good, where maybe as a Mythic Pluser or a Raider, I won't have to do a bunch of world content in order to get a key. So I definitely
Sam working hard, I know. Yeah, right. What a joke.
GG. Of course, we'll still have to see how the rest of the system pans out. Anyway, let's move on to the world map, which has got so much better. It really has. They've added in a whole bunch of different filters. These are for things like quest objectives, skywriting races, dungeon entrances, pet battles, so a bunch of things you may just not want to see, trivial quests, and the big one, warband completed quests, as well as tracked items. And those warband completed quests that really matter, it just means that our alts are going to have a far less, I don't know, dementia-inducing map experience than they did whenever they logged into Valdrakken. So that's real good. And also, there's a new home city icon that looks more like a castle. And if I were to don the tinfoil, I would totally say that this is them freeing up the home icon for use in player housing, obviously, which is a feature in Midnight.
What?
Yes. but come on.
Wait a minute. What is that? It's a freaking home icon? Hold on. You hear that?
Icon for use in player housing, obviously, which is a feature in Midnight.
Wow, look at that.
Yes, but come on. Fingers crossed we can.
Maybe.
Next time, let's talk rewards. Season 1 Keystone Master gives us this lovely diamond mech suit that thankfully can fly, but the big question is, will, for every other season, we just get another tint of the damn thing? Because I really think they gotta make that better, especially in a world where raiders often get some really, really cool mounts. I mean, just look at some of the transfers.
I think it can be the same mount. I agree, the tint shit is boring as hell, but it can be the same mount. You can make them all a mech mount for the rest of the season. Just add some flavor to it. Maybe some crystals hanging off the shoulders for the next season. Maybe a void variant where there's some void portals here and freaking whatever. Just make it more variable season to season rather than just changing the color. But most likely they'll just fucking change the color.
Dragonflight, while our Mythic Plus friends got, I mean, they're pretty cool Kodo-looking dudes, but yeah, come on. Anyway, somewhat related to that, Blizzard are continuing the, I think, pretty successful season mastery achievements that you can complete pretty early on in a season to get you a bit of heroic grade tier in return for any of 2,000 Mythic Plus rating, 1,600 PvP, or Heroic Ansurek. And I suppose what's a little different this time is 1,600 PvP is something I might actually hit because solo QRPGs are going to be a thing.
That's right.
Sounds like content I could really enjoy. Anyway, to zoom out a bit, it basically does seem the Blizzard have settled in on pretty much the gearing system as it is on live as what WoW's gear is going to be.
That's fine. It's good.
Should I say what it was in Season 3. Obviously, Season 4 things like the Bronze Bullion, those are not going to be a thing. Next, then, it turns out the diplomacy is also dead in Azeroth because the old human racial that used to give you a 10% boost to your reputation is gone.
As a human? Oh, ooh. Oh my god, right on the pause. Right on the pause. Hippie Elf, welcome in. Thank you so much for the raid, bringing so many more to our Scourge. Welcome in, welcome in. Give a shout out to Hippie Elf. As I was saying, diplomacy. Very sad to see it go. I play a human, have my whole life, and this is very disappointing. The double Hearthstone that we're getting, I'm sure he's going to talk about it. It's fine, but I feel like diplomacy could have been saved. Just don't make it warbound or something. I don't know.
Right, they're removing that.
It is
basically
what it is.
They're doing that because when they start putting player power on renown tracks, and where that's basically like a pretty major part of the gameplay experience for a lot of people, it basically seems weird that one of the races just gets to be 10% faster. Right? Most racials, of course, are not getting you faster progress on a week-to-week basis, so that's why they're getting rid of it. And the replacement called No Place Like Home is entirely progress unrelated. In a way, it's neat. Like, what you get is a 5-minute faster Hearthstone cooldown, and also a second charge in your Hearthstone.
Yeah.
Now, that is handy, but a second charge in your Hearthstone? I mean, I can't really think of a recent time where I would have needed to use my Hearthstone like twice in a row.
Yeah, I mean, it helps maybe when I'm mount hunting and stuff. You know, I'm hopping from place to place and I got to hearth back and then take the portal and Stormwind again somewhere else. Maybe in that instance, but yeah, he's right. It's not very... That's certainly not as useful as diplomacy was. Diplomacy was the shit, man. I mean, that thing was great, and if you remember, like, back in the day when you could wear tabards to freaking gain rep with places and run dungeons, oh my god, diplomacy was on fire back then. Oh, shit.
I don't know, maybe a bit of
this will be fine.
Maybe there's a way to spice it up. Let's be real, a 10% boost to all rep, like, that was always so good that losing it anyway was just going to feel bad. Ultimately, though, we can see how it makes sense in the modern game. Next then, classes. Right, there is a lot to cover with classes, and I'll do this fairly quickly.
Yeah, there's a lot.
We've got a far larger video diving into just a very big picture of all the classes next week. Anyway, to summarize things, Blood DKs have got a talent tree pass that mostly involved reducing the number of 2-point nodes, and then also
Blood DKs are going to be S tier.
Again, like we've seen in so many, the idea is to open up more build flexibility. Affliction and Destro Warlocks are also getting a bit of a similar treatment, with Dimensional Rift actually going to the center of the tree, and then Infernal making its way back down to the bottom where it used to be for Destro. And then for Affliction, they're getting tweaks to increase the options they've got from the middle of their tree, and also some more upfront damage to Haunt, as well as an improved Haunt talent, basically just to make Haunt feel better. Next then, Mages are kind of interesting. We have a new alternative to the new Time Anomaly. So the new Time Anomaly is this wacky RNG talent that at any time gives you a chance to proc some sort of spec-related buff. As an example,
Parsers
for
are
fire,
gonna
that would
hate
be
this.
5 seconds of combustion, a fire blast charge, or 6 seconds of time warp, right? So pretty neat. Now, they've tweaked Frost's version to swap Fingers of Frost over to Brain Freeze, so it's a little bit more powerful.
RNG-based DPS will always turn you into a schizophrenic, man. You're gonna freak out. You're gonna be so up and down with this shit. You're gonna be seeing dead people. It's gonna because you're gonna have those times where it's gonna hit and it's gonna feel so good, and you're gonna have those times where it's not, and you're just gonna be dank, like doing some wet DPS that's not very fun, and you're gonna feel like, well, damn, if only it had popped off, I would have been doing my shit.
And essentially the way that this plays out for some people, right, is that
it was a problem with Outlaw Rogues for a while, too.
If you do a good job and maybe you just get good rolls, then yeah, you get a good parse. Now, for some people, that's, oh, bing bong, fun numbers, yay. For a lot of other people, though, that is, oh my god, zero integrity, RNG, we're thinking about Preach and his big bag of dice, and it's not going to be a fun time. So to sort of make up for that, what they've done is they've made a choice node talent that is a 3% buff to Arcane Intellect for the mage. And the idea seems that they will be similarly powerful across a large number of pulls, right? Like law of averages, but maybe with some good luck on a pull and some nice timing, anomaly, yeah, that could be better. So it's that sort of thing where I like the texture of this. Look, it's a cool little identity, texture, a bit of flow. I think that's kind of fun. I'd almost say, objectively speaking, outside of World of Warcraft, right? Like as a reactive thing. But then, like in a raid, if I can do the same damage on average with far less complexity, I'm always going to pick that button.
Same.
Right? So it's that kind of thing where making fun talents for an MMO is basically hell compared to just making totally busted, wacky, fun bullshit for an ARPG. Anyway, to finish this off, they've done a pass on hero talents. The Oracle Priest has had a large wave of changes. Druid of the Claw is being tweaked so that it basically has got more even value across the various different gameplay scenarios it's going to find itself in, because multiple specs and multiple builds. And then the Aldrachi Reaver DH is having its rather stressful, tight, high-frequency buff windows being looked at, and Spellslinger is being
Demon Hunters are in a good spot, man. I don't know. They shouldn't be complaining about anything.
Sharing Embers for Fire Mages.
At least in tanking.
So, that's those changes. There are more in the patch notes, and we have a larger video planned in this stuff, probably for next week. So let's get into the drama, and let's talk about Mob Remix, because it's been a very, very silly week. Oh man, where do you even begin in this one? So, if you want to level fast, and if you want to know how to get more spools, I've got good news. We released 2 guide videos this week. That bit was actually really fun to do, mostly because, well,
the emotional roller coaster of Mists of Pandaria Remix has been wild. Every time I put out a video about a buff or a nerf, people go off in the comments section. Everyone's got strong opinions about this thing. But the one thing I will say is it's temporary. For what it is, leveling up your alts, it's great. Beyond that, the transmogs, the mounts, and everything else, yes, there's controversy around it, but I promise you guys, they're going to buff the bronze drop rate at the very end of this event, just like they did in Plunder Storm with the double plunder weeks and shit, and you're going to be able to get everything you want. So don't get too upset. But yes, right now, it is a roller coaster ride.
Those were guides just about kind of doing things. They weren't really dealing with bronze for upgrades, because that is where so much of the drama has been this week. So here's the big one. It came in the form of a tweet. Quote, "Players can purchase gear upgrades without worry that upgrade prices will be
People are
reduced
hating on
later." Blizzard tweeted that, and then in the linked blog post, we basically learned why they are not going to be changing those upgrade costs. Now, their reasoning is they've seen many people upgrade many items so they can do heroic raids, which of course drop lots of bronze, and they then highlighted that the power increases that come along with a higher item level are basically, there's something that scales exponentially, not linearly. So the more you upgrade, you really, really do get more powerful. And absolutely, an eye level 556 character is absolutely busted and completely insane levels of power, which is really fun. Now, the final thing they say is they don't want...
Doom Guard. Freaking Warlocks can summon the Doom Guard, and I told you guys that thing does DPS at a 556 item level. It's insane. People are having Doom Guard solo raid bosses. So that broke it as shit.
people to end up like second guessing their decision to become more powerful. The idea that you invest a whole bunch of bronze in upgrades and then Blizzard nerfs the upgrades and then you feel shit. Now, this angered a lot of people, right? And I think a lot of this is just about expectation because many, perhaps most, are seeing this as a time limited event. So you're kind of thinking fun first, not serious, rewarding, not a giga grind, right? People love the idea of being busted powerful in a way that reminds you of a late season ARPG character that's nearly completely broken. But of course, because this is an event, the expectation, I think, is more that getting there on a single character won't take a long time, because maybe people want to do that on a few different characters. Here, of course, it takes a long time, and I mean, hell, this actually got into the mainstream, like PC Gamer, at least just before I sat down to record this, it was actually in a featured spot of their homepage, right? They had an article saying, well, the headline, players are up in arms after the team refuses to budge on the whopping 577,950 bronze cost to fully upgrade your gear. So, yeah, I guess let me know if you've
A WoW enraged player base making the front of PC Gamer. Why am I not surprised?
been whopped down in the comments. Anyway, what's the disconnect here? Because as I see it, the team clearly thinks that this is a 3-month long event, right? That's almost half of a season.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that their intent is that you can play this as like your main form of endgame World of Warcraft if that's what you want to do through that span of time, hence the big bronze costs. Like, that does appear to be the tuning from what I can see. But I think that is not really how a lot of people see this. And looking for player opinion, right? Like trying to find people who have got very, very kitted out characters. Well, the endgame people actually seem to want changes. They seem to want the upgrade costs to go down, right?
Yeah.
And of course,
That's
that
not
can
gonna
make sense.
happen.
Maybe they want to play in alts as well. But basically,
Not gonna
the
happen.
people who have like
Blizzard's trying to drag this thing out as long as they can. We looked at the calendar, right? And we see how this thing's lining up in terms of how beta's dropping right now for the War Within, and we know how the pre-patch is going to drop. The way everything's lining up right now, they want to drag this thing out all the way through pre-patch, right? They want it to last all the way through. End of pre-patch, this thing's going to end. Everything's happening. War Within's dropping. So they're not going to make it any quicker towards the end.
ascended the mountain and got to the top have turned around and said, that's a load of
This
bollocks,
event's
that's
keeping people
way too
sucked,
much.
essentially.
Blizzard, please make it smaller, right? Please make it smaller for the other people. So, like, shit, it does seem that the whole world is saying, Blizzard, you're wrong, and Blizzard are seemingly saying,
giving the
no,
double
no,
middles.
we're not. This is the intent. Okay, let's talk about some changes. So, Blizzard, and this is funny, it's a bit of a comedy like most remix things have ended up being. Blizzard tried to change the scaling, right, to sort of smooth out the jumps in difficulty between different raids. They were doing this via
think it
sliding
broke
scaling
something.
based on player item level and raid difficulty. And of course, players immediately broke it.
Yeah.
They immediately broke it by just taking off their jewelry and that sort of thing to
Right.
tank their item level so they could be at a good break point, and this was quickly known as the 369 cheese. What a shit show. One that, of course, like, yeah, it's a cheese, but what it leads to is group finder groups now having a maximum...
Dude, there's no way that this is not frustrating. Like, imagine working at Blizzard and every time you try to fix something, your degenerate player base figures out a workaround. Like, did you guys see the one where people can literally make a character and, make a new account, a trial account with a character and bring that trial account character into the raid, so it basically, into the dungeon, so it breaks everything? So you basically can run through and just clear the entire dungeon in 5 minutes because you bring a broken character in. Oh my god, it's gotta be tough being a Blizzard employee at times, because you'll never be more degenerate than your player base, and your player base truly reaches all-time lows to work around things.
Some level limitation because you want to have that delicious broken scaling. Now,
Oh yeah, players have been breaking the game since the beginning.
Is that they have applied and then removed a 20% buff to the heroic raids, but the 369 cheese is apparently still working. Now, the changes don't stop there. There are other things, like as an example, the Gulp Frog people. So if you're Gulp Frogging at all, you will not have been eligible on that character for the 40k bronze you get for hitting levels.
Like, I'm guaranteeing that's why Ian Hazakosis is losing his hair. This guy probably gets texts in the middle of the night, hey, yeah, they broke the game again, Ian. What do you mean? Yeah, you know that item we put back in vanilla WoW was like that level 2 gray item? People found out that if they equip it, they can actually fly through dungeons via their cocks and delete everything in the dungeon and loot everything right away. Ian just fucking, oh god, here we go again. Just delete the item. Delete the item.
70. Characters, of course, that did a lot of gold frog farming, they have had their power stripped back, basically to what Blizzard said is a reasonable amount for a very, very engaged player to achieve. Now, in a way that is fair enough. They did go on to say that the impact of the reduction is larger for the people who, quote, took advantage of the situation for longer. That's kind of tricky, because a bit of me hears that and says, took advantage of the situation. Like, that sounds a little antagonistic, and hey, those were just mobs that were dropping charms in your game. You hold the bag, it's your fault. And you then sort of think like, well, okay, how about you inform us that it is a situation earlier so we know not to take advantage for longer.
Yeah, I agree with
Then
Belly
that
there.
does lead into a communications problem. Because if Blizzard tweets that, and Wowhead makes a post about it, and maybe I mention it in a video or whatever, some people will know. But a lot of other people will not know. And then you'd have a problem where the people who would end up being the most targeted would also be the people who would be the least plugged in to the sort of online commentary. A little bit of a strange thing, and the side part of that is the application of this does seem to have been messy. I have seen many conflicting reports, people only touching a few gulp frogs and then not being eligible for the gold. Some people saying they did gulp frogs for like an hour, maybe 2 hours, and they were able
This whole
to lose the
situation's
gold.
kind of scuffed.
I don't really know. It's sort of tricky when you do a very large thing to very many accounts. I mean, obviously, there's going to be some false positives or issues. So, tricky. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And I think
They're trying to appease the angry mob, but at the end of the day, this was something that was in freaking original Mists of Pandaria. Like, Blizzard should have seen this hyperspawn farm shit coming. This stuff existed back when MoP existed. So the fact that players did it, it was in the game. They weren't doing anything to break the game. They were literally just killing mobs that spawned really quick. So I think it's unfair, honestly, what they've done to go back and retroactively kind of blast people for doing this shit. It's kind of sad. But they're trying to appease the mob, and that never works out well.
Again, as I said earlier, red team testing is what they need here. Like, red teaming is, like, I think, more of a software thing. It's basically like more adversarial testing, the idea that your testers are trying to break and exploit the game. I think if that was going on, like, this probably wouldn't have happened. I mean, look, there are farms that I've seen on YouTube that I remember doing back in Mists of Pandaria.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think big picture, adversarial testing that has got player incentives in mind is absolutely the thing that needs to happen more.
How do I get that
if
shopper?
Events like this are to continue. And of course, I do want them to continue because fundamentally, I think it's really cool. Now, beyond this, there of course have been more things. Numerous hyperspawn farms have been nerfed. Basically, if they appear, they will be fixed very soon. And they've also rebalanced some outlier gems like Slayer and the big ward that everyone was talking about. And the thing is, those nerfs are fair, and the hyperspawns, to some people, that's a nerf that's destroying their gameplay. And they feel like they need the hyperspawn farm because we live in a world where Blizzard does not want to take the bronze upgrade cost down for gear. Of course, from Blizzard's perspective, they don't want the optimal way to play their game being just killing goats in one place for 10 hours straight. Because that's obviously a awful design and a bad, unsustainable way for your game to be.
I don't fault Blizzard for not wanting this to be the meta, right? You don't want this to be the way people play the game. But what I do fault them on is just, it happened. Whatever, it happened. You don't retroactively punish people for doing something that was technically not breaking the game. They were not breaking the rules. They were just, there was a rule that was maybe a little bit, it should have existed and it didn't yet. That's it. Then you put the rule in place and stop it. And the people who did it, I get they're going to have an advantage, but at the end of the day, this is just a temporary game mode. People are playing it like it's a freaking end game, like it's a real retail WoW. No, it's just a freaking broken game mode. Let it be broken. It's okay.
And this is where we run into
everyone's going to get what they want at the end.
Diablo 4 had, where basically launch happens and you find yourself playing just whack-a-mole with problems. You are identifying problems, you're fixing problems, you're just trying to do that. But the problem is, some of those problems, I know I'm saying problem a lot, but some of them actually lead to players advancing quicker. Yeah. So your fix for the problem ends up being a realm to
Bum Aviator, thank you for the follow and welcome to our Scourge. But it's right, just have fun, it's the game mode, yes, yeah. It'll tie us over to the war within, exactly, it's what it's supposed to do. I know, yeah, you must be eye level 5. I understand people are getting, like, basically eye leveled out of shit. People are not getting invited to certain things because they don't have maybe they didn't frog farm, so their eye level's a little bit behind. They can catch up, though. It's just the instant gratification crowd. Some people are upset that they're not getting the gratification right now that other people are. But there's gonna be catch-up mechanics. They already added the eye level, the level 40, 50, and 60, or a 60, 50, 60, 70 shit where you get the bronze boosts and all that. And they're going to add more. And at the end of this event, it's just going to be literally bronze raining from the sky, I promise you. So you'll catch up. Everything will happen. Patience.
Because it kind of is a nerf. And
Wax
to the players,
on,
that will
wax
feel
off.
bad. And they will basically feel like they're being nerfed and nerfed and nerfed and nerfed, but they're not really getting anything to compensate. And again, this is a world where top-end remixers with 556 characters appear to be almost unanimous in thinking that the upgrades are basically bullshit expensive. And of course, it's not like those players would have a better time in alts, because here, the upgrade cost reductions are not account-wide. It's just... They need to fix things up, and I don't really know what to do, but maybe a good move would be putting a large one-time bonus on clearing, like, major milestones for the first time. I mean, ideally, you would have just done this via achievements, and maybe the achievement for a normal raid boss or a heroic raid boss would give you a lot of bronze, and that would sort of make sense at endgame, right? If you make those endgame specific.
But look at this. How much you guys want to bet? Say the bronze cost was like half of what it is right now, and people had upgraded all the way exponentially to God mode like a month ago. Guess what people would be saying? Oh, I wish this event had lasted longer. I wish Blizzard had made this event, something that would have lasted at least another month. Oh, this is kind of boring now. I already hit max everything. It's guaranteed that's what would have happened. People would have been there's always people bitching. I'm not saying there's not something to the bitching. Okay, there is. There's some truth in the bitching. There totally is. But I guarantee you, if this game mode was as easy as people are complaining that it should be, there would have been people complaining, oh man, look at this. I wish this event would have lasted and I got nothing to do.
Obviously,
I'm bored
the
now,
achievement ship sailed a long time ago, so I don't really know. Maybe you make it so normal and heroic bosses drop like a one-time quest item worth a lot of bronze? But again, if you buff how people get bronze, that is in a way a little bit of a stealth nerf to the amount of work that that it takes to get those upgrades, and then that would go against the philosophy that Blizzard tweeted and made their blog post about. Basically meaning, this is kind of hard, we live in hell, and maybe using bronze for both our cosmetic rewards and our upgrades was not the move. So look, do let me know what you think here. I'll say personally, I kind of hate how this has went. I really hate that this just feels like snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. I mean, at least for a lot of players it does. Like, personally, I have just been playing, leveling an altar 2, mostly chill, all happy and fine. But for the people who really wanted to take what Blizzard were offering them with Mop Remix and run with it, it does seem like, by and large, there are a lot of negative experiences. The intended way to play this is definitely not to be going around chasing hyperspawn farms that are extremely boring. But that's what people have ended up feeling like they've got to do because of the way the bronze is balanced. And ultimately, that is going to have led to negative buzz. That negative buzz is kind of unignorable. So I guess, I don't know, tell me what your experience has been down below. I want to understand what the impact on players has been. So if you've enjoyed this, absolutely tell me. If you haven't, tell me. Let's try to end things on a more fun note, though. Some Aryan have moved into our home cities, including this fella. He's got dialogue, man, that dialogue. It is clearly Blizzard looking at the players and giving us a wink. Okay.
What is it?
Let me give you the quote.
Oh, shit.
Either way, we've been talking about Orgrimmar's scattered forges, and for a city as fortified as this, we're both a bit surprised at the lack of dedicated industrial forge grounds.
Oh my god, this guy's shitting on Orgrimmar.
A canyon city like this is missing, wouldn't you agree? Seaside coolant systems, cliff-carved quarries, a port for trade even. The opportunities to expand are endless. That is what our little dwarf earthen friend says. And look, let's be real. Orgrimmar is a bit of a hole. It is a bit of a hole. I mean, those kind of scrappy...
Orgrimmar is a shithole. I'm not gonna lie. I always favored Stormwind over Orgrimmar. It's one of the reasons why I can't really play Horde. I can't deal with Orgrimmar. It's ugly as shit. But that's funny that they got this freaking dwarf here. Basically, and dwarves are very much alliance, centric, right? Dwarves have always been alliance. Now the Horde are getting them. But it's funny that the first dwarf race that gets to show up in the in Orgrimmar talks shit about Orgrimmar. But hey, it could be leading to a revamp. I guess he's right. I guess Bellular's onto something.
We're trying. We got a lot of heart. Those original vibes, those died whenever Garrosh made it like spiky and ugly and warlike, and it's just kind of languished since then. With all sorts of I mean, depending on what time of day it is, maybe you have a different war chief spawn in. Who knows? It is a total mess of a city. A full revamp would be incredible, and I think this dialogue is Blizzard giving us a bit of a wink and a nod. That being said, I wonder how you'd even fit this in. Like, Khazalgar is pretty close to Kalimdor, but it's hard to see Orgrimmar being hyper involved in the story
very relevant.
unless maybe we get surprised. Like, 10.0 does see, of course, the Nerubian Queen be defeated. From there, we really don't know what's next, right? Like, is it an Arathi showdown? I mean, probably not. That would be too quick. They've only just been introduced. We've got no idea how we'll actually draw Xal'atath out, fight her, stop her larger
Maybe
plan.
in Midnight, but that's going to be a Silver Moon expansion.
Data mining has pointed people towards the idea of a Goblin raid, sort of suggesting perhaps Undermine as a zone. That's a place that people have wanted to go to for, like, decades.
True.
Also, there are some Venture Co. goblins down there in Ashkahet somehow. To other expansions, Midnight is all Quel'Thalas, and the last Titan is Northrend, which could be an opportunity because giving Orgrimmar a proper harbor would be
Siege of Orgrimmar 2 confirmed.
Kind of cute timing because, of course, Wrath of the Lich King came with the Stormwind Harbor as one of its big cool things that we all logged into on pre-patch before
that was cool.
Zombies. Now, of course, this is the modern team, and they are capable of cooking. They have a lot of resources, so who the hell knows? Some sort of Orgrimmar revamp could be a 0.5 patch. And if it was, it would actually be heading off a big player criticism, or at least, I don't want to say criticism. I mean, the ship hasn't sailed yet, but there are a lot of people saying the War Within is an alliance expansion. And I made a whole video
He's
not
about
heavily involved, though. So, if you have a bit of a criticism that there's a lot of alliance stuff, and we are coming off the back of the Orc Heritage Armor quest, which was absolutely terrific, then having some sort of narrative about a rebuilding and a fixing up of Orgrimmar, I mean, that actually would be a 0.5 patch that would properly get some headlines, drum up some hype, and get people excited.
0.5
Orgrimmar
revamp?
Well, we are cooking up a lot of things for next week. Till then, though, you can check out how you can make use of the War Within's new account-wide currency system in a video we released yesterday.
Yeah, we checked that out
it's
already.
Actually pretty damn good, and you can literally do things to benefit your situation today, and maybe get yourself that Priestess's Moonsaber. So, you can check that video out by clicking the card that will soon replace my face. And with that said, I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll see you next time.
Yeah, what? Nobody likes the spiked dildo city? Everyone wants to revamp? Okay, yeah, we'll do that. I think Orgrimmar will eventually get some love, get a revamp. Whether or not the next expansion's alliance-based, I think people are jumping the ship a little bit too much on that one. Every expansion is either Horde kind of centric or alliance-centric. Now, the alliance has had more, probably stories that are centered around them. You know, Wrath of the Lich King can technically be seen as an alliance-based expansion, but she had some undertones of, you know, the undead and everything in it. Obviously, Warlords of Draenor was very much Horde-centric. And I even though I play the Alliance, I still love that story. I thought it was good. Story was fine. You know, time travel, that's whatever. But the end game was non-existent in WoD. But the story in the beginning was very cool. I liked hearing about the tribes and shit. So we'll see how the story plays out in the world War Within. But we all know Silver Moon's going to be relevant in Midnight anyway, so it doesn't matter. The Horde will get their time in the light too.